Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Jackson, and I am here for a Pen Posse author interview. I'm really excited about this interview. I don't have these interviews as often as I would like, so it's always great when I get an opportunity to bring on an author that is talking about a topic that is so important to us as adult, married, unmarried, as well as those who have gone through divorce and for those just within the culture. It is important that we talk about some key issues. So we have Tara Seals here, and she is an award-winning entrepreneur, a global speaker, a philanthropist, an educator, a 9 times self-published author, and she is the author, the best-selling author of the book Divorce, the Unspoken Childhood Trauma. And so tonight we're going to talk to her and learn about her work for a number of reasons. One is because we want to support what she's doing. Two is because she's talking about a topic that has impacted so many of us. I am a child of divorce. And so many of you out there have gone through the trauma of going through a divorce, seeing your family split up because of issues that a child cannot typically understand. However, having to transition and pivot our lives because of this disruption in the family. And so it's very important to me that we bring on authors like this who are tackling some key issues, get to know them and support their work. So let's bring on Tara. Hi.
Hello, Michelle. Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
This is so great to have you here. I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to see the work. That's key for me. This is Divorce, the Unspoken Childhood Trauma. You can pick this book up on Amazon, but also it's on Direct to Author, which is my platform where you can find over 500 books by Black writers. These are independent authors. And so if you want to support our growing Black author community, please go to direct2author.com, and you can also find Divorce, the Unspoken Childhood Trauma. But let's get into this book because that's what it's all about. Let's talk about what it is, why you wrote the book, why is this the moment that you felt this book needed to be written, and what have you learned. But before we get to all of that, tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, first of all, Michelle, for creating this space. It is very needed within our community. And to have that safe space where we can have these courageous conversations is what I like to call them. I am Tara Seals. I'm the Bossy Educator. And if you can find me at all things, the Bossy Educator. And the Bossy Educator, as the Bossy Educator, I teach adults as well as children how to be the boss of themselves, not others. With over 20 years of experience working with K through 12 entities, as well as 24-hour residential treatment facilities, along with alternative schools, I found that a lot of people are able to point out the needs of others, but not necessarily find the needs for themselves. And as an author now, 10 times over, I feel as if, writing a book is something that you do when you have something to say. And you usually want more than one person, more than one culture to pick it up and to read the words that you had the courage to not only keep as thoughts, but to put them on paper or audiobook or whatever format that will get it to the people. So that's Tara Seals in a nutshell.
Love it. Thank you so much for being with us. We know that you're doing dynamic work. We know that you're tackling an important topic. But let's talk about what inspired you to write a book about divorce. And, I don't know how many books are out there about this particular topic. I'm sure there are many. I don't know how many are written by African American women. And also, I don't know how many are written from the perspective of an 8-year-old, someone who is actually going through this experience in real time. I love that you chose that you were 8 years old telling your story. This is a memoir in many ways,
Yes.
because that's a very, very important period of life. You're young. You don't understand it as an adult. You just see something breaking down that is important to you. And for me, I'm a child of divorce as well. My parents divorced when I was 2. And so when you grow up, there's so many things you don't understand, especially when it
Oh, yeah.
happened to you as a childhood. So talk to us about what inspired you to write your book.
So what inspired me to write the book, Michelle, is something the universe, God, whomever, kept tapping me on my shoulder, like, you need to share your story. But Michelle, for so long, I was disappointed in the decisions that my father made. I was also embarrassed about my parents getting a divorce. My grandparents were married for 53 years, my mom's parents. So she knows nothing about this dynamic of family. Whereas my dad's family, his mom was married multiple times, multiple children, multiple men, that type of situation. So it was more of a familiar dynamics, so to say, for him. And funny enough, we were able to actually have more conversations around this, but more so later on in life, not early in life, because he was not really ready nor capable of understanding what his accountability in it all. And the reason why I wrote the book is because I wanted people to understand the different facets of divorce, the different facets and opportunities that are within divorce that we can use as learning experiences, and understanding how to vet the people that we are building these legacies with, because it is a legacy. Marriage is a legacy. It is a partnership. It is a business, and it's one to be taken very serious, whether you are committed to raising children together or not. It's still it's a covenant. It's a covenant. It's a space where I feel as if it's a covenant, but some people do not treat it as such. However, to me, it was very important because I saw my grandparents have a successful divorce, and I was all about family. So, of course, I was excited about my own family as far as my mom, my dad, and my brother and I. And when that started to go in a different direction, I had all kind of questions, but not a lot of answers, unfortunately. So this book was written in the hopes that people could find some of the answers that they may have to some of those probing questions.
And some of the questions that you have when you're younger is why,
Yeah,
why do
that's
I need to go live in a different house, or my father or my mother's going to live in a different house? What type of dynamic will this be? There are some very hard things that we face when we look at divorce. And I want to just kind of give a little bit of information about what divorce has done to the Black community, because we need to hear about this. I was listening to a gentleman just a couple of weeks ago talk about
mhm.
how the wealth gap in this country is so wide between Black families and white families. And one
Yes.
of and interestingly enough, it is even wider between Asian families and Indian families, American, Asian Americans and Indian Americans.
Mhm.
So when you talk about wealth, we don't like to connect wealth to marriage because it sounds like we're marrying for money or we're marrying for financial stability. But statistics show us that people who are married do have more financial stability.
That's
And so
correct.
when we are breaking up our families for whatever reason,
Mhm.
our families are breaking up, it is having an impact on us culturally that
Absolutely.
begins with the demise of the family dynamic within, but it also reaches to our financial wealth, because a lot of women are
Mhm.
going to take the kids and they're going to live in poverty after divorce. And that's a reality. We don't like to talk about it, but it is a reality. So
It-
I love that you're taking a look behind the veil of what divorce has done to you, how it impacted you, and putting it on paper, which is very brave. So congratulations for doing
Thank
that. But let
you.
me ask you this question. What was the number one thing that you wanted your readers to take away from the book?
The number one thing that I wanted them to take away from the book is we cannot act as if divorce does not create trauma. Oftentimes, when a divorce is happening, the child has no outlet, but the adults do. They have people that they talk to, their trusted spaces. Sometimes they may go through therapy, have someone at the church that they may trust, someone in their family, a close friend that they're leaning and depending on. But the child or children is kind of like in the middle trying to figure it all out, and they have questions for mommy and for daddy. And ultimately, Michelle, children want their parents to be together. I have not met a child that does not want their parents to be together, because guess what? As you become older, you're going to see your parents in two different places. So Christmas is never the same. Birthdays are never the same. Special holidays or traditions that you could set are not the same. And the breakdown of the family does create a breakdown of generational wealth as well. So if we're thinking about our children, which we should be if we're creating children within these spaces, then we have to consider, are we creating generational wealth, or are we creating a situation where it's possible that our child will recreate the wheel over again by watching what we're doing, especially when we're not able to admit our faults or have those honest conversations with our children with what's about to happen or what's going on. Sometimes the transition just occurs and the adults are going back and forth and they know what's happening. But when the child asks questions, you stay in the child's place. And especially, growing up in in the southern part of the United States of America, honey, you are told to be a child, stay in a child's place. Make sure you don't ask me any questions about what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. You go with the motion, opposed to you actually having a voice, being seen, being heard. Or even if you're not old enough at the time that your parents are going through the divorce, and you get older and you have these questions, sometimes you're pushed away as well, because sometimes the parents, I've noticed, are just not really ready to answer certain questions or to face the situation either.
Divorce, the unspoken childhood trauma, Take me back to 8-year-old Tara. And what was going through your mind as this experience was taking place within your family?
Absolutely. So the 8-year-old Tara saw a breakdown of communication with her parents. The 8-year-old Tara saw infidelity on my father's part that ultimately led to the demise of the relationship with my mom. My parents were married. I'm the honeymoon baby. And when sometimes when young couples have kids, I would say within the first 5 years, oftentimes it's just not a good idea. My rule of thumb, I've been married now for 15 years, so I think I can say this. My rule of thumb is the first 5 years, keep everything the same. Do not buy a house together. Don't buy a car together. Do not commingle your finances. Just keep it cool. Learn the person. Enjoy your mate. Don't have children, because a lot of things occur during marriage that you didn't know about before marriage. And you're learning this person. You're learning how they deal with life as it is and how it presents itself from day to day. And you just never know what challenge or what journey is ahead in a marriage. So I just feel like if you give yourself enough time to really understand this person, how they manage their finances, do they keep a job? Is this person serious about their health? Are they trying to even be around? If you all do have children, how will you all raise these children? What do you all have in common when it comes to what your family dynamic will look like? And what are some things that you all don't necessarily agree with? Because if there are going to be some things that you don't agree with, and that can definitely make or break a situation. Unfortunately, 50% of marriages with children end in divorce. 50% of marriages with children end in divorce. So to me, you need to have those conversations beforehand. So maybe we won't have so many broken homes and that generational wealth ends up going down the drain, because it usually takes about 7 years to turn and pivot from the divorce into, I would say, positive land when it comes to finances, positive land when it comes to your mental health and your well-being overall after a divorce. So give yourself time to get to know the person. Don't jump right in. And just see how they act in certain situations when they respond to certain things that happen in life, because the good, bad, and happy and sad is coming. So if you go ahead and you learn this person, and you're not going to know everything, right? But if you give yourself time to get to know the person and not rush into certain situations, and especially sex, because sometimes sex kind of, clouds the mind, clouds the judgment, honey. it have you making decisions that you shouldn't necessarily make. A lot of decisions are made prematurely because sex is good. So I see all these red flags. We just go act like they're not there, right? So that's some of my advice.
You know what? You said a lot, and I'm glad you're bringing up some of these things, because I think a lot of us, we don't talk about marriage and divorce enough. We have this tendency to think marriage is just about love, which is a beautiful feeling. And you need to love, but God tells us to love everybody. He tells you to love your neighbor, the one whose dog is barking all night long and driving you crazy. So love should be an automatic. there are so many other things that a good relationship requires. I've been married 22 years.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot that I agree with what you said
Mhm.
about waiting to have kids. I do agree with that. I think there is a benefit. What I say is this: good relationships, when you marry, you need to bond around something.
Yeah.
Sometimes people bond around something positive, sometimes people bond around something negative.
Yep.
If you start a marriage and you haven't bonded around something, and then you go and you bring a child into it, and the child brings a great deal of confusion into the marriage, no matter what, because now your spouse is no longer just yours, you're sharing your spouse.
Oh yeah.
So those things, if you're not ready for all that,
Mm-hmm.
don't go jump into having a kid fast, because
No.
it is going to it's not going to be what you think it is. So
Right.
build, bond around something. My husband was military. We bonded around the military, meaning we had to pack and leave every 3 years. It was us. It was, when people say ride or die, we had to create that ride or die and experience, moment for ourselves, because we were like, he was what I had and I was what he had, and we were just moving. And we
Yes.
bonded around that. We learned how to get in the trenches together because of those experiences. But your bonding could be around anything. But I
Yeah.
don't want it to be around having a child, because
Mm.
that is a very different type of connection that you make with your spouse when you have a child. And so I love that you're saying this. I am someone who's a big advocate for marriage.
Mhm.
And I know that people divorce, and I know that there are reasons to get divorced. And I know that I don't advocate for anyone staying in a marriage that's not a good marriage.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
When you look back on your mother and father's situation, even though there was infidelity involved, do
Mm-hmm.
you think as a child that marriage would have been strong? If they would have stayed together, would it have changed your life, outcome for you as an individual?
I don't think so. And the
Mhm.
reason why I say that is because as you get older in life, you realize that your parents are who they are. They were people before you ever came into the world. So before they got the title mom and dad, they were who they were, right? And not only that, but I feel as if um, we put our parents on a pedestal. We have these unrealistic expectations sometimes, because that's mama, that's daddy. Like, no, daddy can't do any wrong. No, daddy, mama can't do any wrong. But you realize that these are humans that chose to be together, and they chose to be married, and they chose to have a baby. And these were some of the good choices, but also these humans that are your mom and dad, they make not so good choices as well. And that is for different reasons too. So ultimately, I feel as if my parents did make a good decision. I just don't think that they handled the decision well.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is I was very mature at the age of 8, because fortunately I had my granny and my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Owens. And I talk about them obviously in the book, that they were my pillars at that time. Baby, Miss Owens knew all my mom and daddy business. Because as I stated, children
Mhm.
need an outlet, and she was there every day. My
Mhm.
granny, she knew things that were going on as well that my mom was not comfortable maybe with sharing with her yet, but I was in the household with them. So of course I was aware of what was going on. And it was a period of kind of in and out. I have a whole chapter called In and Out. Because kids are not necessarily understanding the dynamic when, okay, you're here Wednesday and then the weekend come, you're not here, and then next week y'all argue and then you back that weekend. But I thought you and mama wasn't together anymore. But
Mhm.
daddy got a girlfriend, because when I go over his house, it's a baby over there, it's a girlfriend over there. What's going on? But there's never this explanation. And oftentimes, once again, growing up Southern Baptist, honey, okay, well, you see me in the church in the red hymn books, okay? You're told to stay in a child's place. So you're not asking questions, but you're seeing all of these things going on. And oftentimes, we do not give kids the benefit of the doubt. We're thinking that they're just, okay, they're not paying attention, but honey, they're paying way more attention than you think they are. So for me, having those outlets really saved me as a child, more so than my parents staying together, because I can see why it didn't work out. I honestly say that now, being an adult, fast forward, but they're great friends. And I think that if they had the opportunity to work their things out before my dad started commingling with other people and bringing other individuals into the family, supposedly, because there hasn't been any DNA tests done, but there were children that were brought into the marriage as well that he claims. So, to me, DNA tests or not, if that's what you claim, then that's what it is. And I think that if he was more mature as a man, and if he had an example, so that's something else we have to think about too. What was the example that he saw? Because the example that my mom saw was a completely different example from what he saw. And we did have a conversation after some time, that we took some time away from each other. Me and my father just had to kind of, I had to understand him from a distance, and he had to understand my position from a distance. And unfortunately, it took a almost tragic car accident to actually bring us back together again, where he actually broke both of his legs and was crushed between two semi trucks. And God works in mysterious ways, and that's what brought us back together. He was thinking that he was on his deathbed, and he called my mom and was like, I just don't want to die, and me and my daughter does not have this, we don't have our relationship right. It's not, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm sad. He was crying profusely, and God put on my heart to give him grace and mercy. Not only in that space, but before I love my daddy, love him dearly, because we have so much in common, and we can crack up and talk about stuff. He loves to talk about sports. He has his certain television shows or whatever he likes to watch. He's always been a very clean cut guy. We talk about fashion and different stuff like that. And he wants to stay on top of it. So we have great conversations, and we had a great relationship even as a child before things happened. But I was just so disappointed and hurt and confused and felt abandoned by his choices to neglect.
Yeah, you use those words, abandonment and confusion and powerlessness. And I love that you're being so authentic. And I was reading your reviews about your book, and that's something that people say. You're very to the point. You're very vulnerable. And that's key as a writer, because people know when you're not being authentic. And so you're being very authentic in your work and sharing this. I have a very similar story. It's just interesting. I'm from Alabama, so I know that Southern Baptist. I understand. My mother and father divorced when I was 2. And so growing up, I didn't even understand divorce because I was so young. I wasn't really conscious of what was happening. But as I got older, and I'm having to split my time between my mother and my father, it really took a toll on me, because my mother's house and my father's house was so different. And so I had to learn how to maneuver both environments. And it was tough, because my mother's, her world was very laid back and fun. And there was always a cousin at the house, or auntie or uncle. And my father was a much more structured environment where I couldn't have a lot of company. And there were things that his house gave me that my mother's house didn't give me, and vice versa. I mean, he had BET, and back then that was so it's like, I'll go over there for that, no doubt. But it took me years to begin to appreciate a couple of things. It took me years to appreciate that my mother was adamant about making sure I had a relationship with my father. She did not care about what her relationship was with him. She just wanted me to have a relationship with him. And I'm grateful, because my mother died 20 years ago, and my father just passed 2 years ago. And our relationship after my mother died just grew. It was a great bond. And if she had been the type of mother who said, oh, he did me wrong, or he hurt me, and you can't go over there. And that's another thing about divorce that creates a great deal of trauma, is when there is this push and pull between the two parents. I would not have had those years with my father. So I'm grateful that my mother was like, I'm not going to bring you in the middle of what happened between us. You just go have a relationship with your father. So awesome. I love that you are tackling divorce in this way, and marriage. And guys, everybody out there, marriage is tough, it's layered, it's complex, things happen. I always say your spouse becomes your mirror. So if you selfish, low down, crazy acting,
girl, they're gonna let you know what's up.
want to correct myself and say this. When I say it's tough, I don't mean that it's not
Yeah.
beautiful and fun and wonderful.
Oh,
I love being married, but it's
yes.
complex. So
Mhm.
whereas some of us will say, "Oh, I got a girlfriend who husband cheated on her and she stayed," and people don't understand that. But you got to understand that marriage is very intimate, and it's between you and your spouse behind closed doors. So you may not understand why people do what they do, but
Right.
respect it.
Mhm.
Respect it. So, and
Mhm.
divorce is one of those things. Some people will
Right.
say, "Well, why not stay? Why not work harder?" And
Mhm.
as a mother, as a father who's being in the trenches,
Mhm.
there are more things to think about than just what other people have to say. So I'm
Oh,
grateful that
yes.
you wrote this book. Talk to us a little bit about the powerlessness,
Mhm.
which is one of the words that I take from your own description of your story. I know you're 8, so of course you're feeling powerless because you're a kid.
Mhm. Right.
But how did you regain the power? What happened? How did your family or your parents, or I know you talk about a teacher, what did they say? What did they do to help you to regain your power and so that you would not allow this trauma to not only keep you from falling in love and wanting marriage, but also it didn't keep you from moving forward in life in a positive way?
Absolutely. So, children between the ages of 7 and 14 are affected by divorce the most. Okay. Because obviously you have clarity, and clarity provides you with the information at some point that you may not have had, but you keep getting clues as to what's going on in your household. So I started to get clarity about what was going on. And once I thought I knew, I started asking trusted adults around me. And I always say that children need trusted adults. Parents oftentimes say, "Oh, I don't want my kids talking to nobody but me." But guess what? You're not always available. And I'm not just saying available
Mhm.
meaning present, but sometimes your mental is in question. So you do want your child to have people within the village that are trusted adults that they can have conversations with when maybe you're not available. You're checked out because you got your own stuff going on, right? So during that time, with me feeling powerless, I felt as if I didn't have what it took to keep them together. Like I wanted to find the answer. I'm a problem solver. I love solutions. So I wanted to find what the solution was. Why is it that daddy is over here and then sometimes he go over there? And when I mean over there, we never had a space to go be with my father by himself. And
Mhm.
that's something that I think is very important for people to understand too, because if you are dating someone that has kids, or if you're married to someone that has kids, you're engaged to someone that has kids, when children come over, they're actually there to visit the parent that is not living in the house with them. So they're not really trying to create a bond with you so much.
Mhm.
They're trying to create a bond with the parent that is outside of the house, especially if they're used to that parent being in the house. So there were just certain things that my daddy would do, like ride with the music loud. He loved to ride, and he didn't play the gospel channel like my mama did, or the talk show radio like my mama did. He played, that good Al Green. We got our big red bubble gum, not bubble gum, but chewing gum.
Mhm.
And it was carefree with my dad. And like you said earlier in the conversation, at my dad's house, it was certain sets of rules. At my mom's house, she had a certain set of rules. So when you're going back and forth, and I think adults don't really think about this, "Oh, I'm gonna get him on every other weekend. I'm gonna get him every other week." Well, while you're making your plan, consider the child, because y'all, it is wear and tear on a child for real.
Mhm.
Keeping up with all the rules and regulations, keeping up with all your stuff. Did you leave your band shirt at your daddy's house? Did you leave your permission slip at your mama's house? It's just so much that children go through. And adults really don't consider that because they're really only thinking about how they're being affected by what's happening, opposed to the children being affected by what's happening. So
Oh
I
boy.
felt very powerless. I wanted the answer. I asked my mama, "Why is he not here?" When my dad would come over, I would hold on to his pants leg and say, "Daddy, don't go." And, so I felt powerless in the sense of I love my family. I've always been about family. And here it is, my family is coming to an end as I once knew it. As I
Oh,
once.
so many kids are going through this. So many families are going through this right now. That this is
Mhm.
why your book is so important. So for
Yes.
those people out there, don't hesitate to go buy and support this book. Give it to someone who's going through it. don't just believe the kids to get over it. I have people out here them say this all the time. Kids are resilient.
Yes,
Yes,
they
kids are
are.
resilient, but we're also kids are just little people. So they're just who we are. They're just smaller, and they have anxiety and frustration. They have depressions. They struggle with some of the same things that we struggle with, but we write it off as they're too young to really understand it. They're too young to really comprehend what's happening. Well, at some point they're going to get older. And
Yep.
so when you don't approach this situation correctly, you leave your child who's already struggling with so many other things as they grow up with yet another unanswered question that they're going to take into their adulthood, and they're going to either, you know, do the same thing, have bad relationships, make bad decisions, or they're going to shy away from marriage because they're afraid of that pain of
That's
what they had to endure. So I'm so happy that you wrote this book. You said a couple of things that I love. That's why you are the bossy educator, because you are educating us. I love what you said. You said that there needs to be trusted adults.
yes.
And I want to go back to that because I like what that sounds like to me. Trusted adults.
Yes.
Um, there are so many people in our lives that we're impacted by: teachers, coaches, of course, grandma and granddad, uncles, aunts. But everybody is not a trusted adult.
That's
Some
correct.
people are just, they are in the adult's body, but they're
Mhm.
not capable of seeing themselves as an adult and treating a child as if that child needs to be guided, which is a big something that I am very adamant about, trying to be that for young people. I don't go into a room with a bunch of 20-year-olds and see myself as their equal. I go into a room with a bunch of 20-year-olds, and as a 50-year-old woman, I see myself as a mentor, as someone who can guide them, and I speak to them in that way. So I want them to see me as a trusted adult. So let's go back to that.
Mhm.
Define what is a trusted adult for everyone out there who's impacting the life of a child.
Yes. A trusted adult is a person that creates a safe space that the child is able to share their thoughts, their feelings without judgment.
Mm.
This person is often someone that will give good intentional advice and have genuine concern for what the child's concerns are. They want solution. They don't want to add drama. They don't want to add toxicity. They don't want to add confusion to an already confused situation.
Mm-hmm.
And our children need these trusted adults, because a trusted adult will be a person that is part of your village. And our children need villages. So it's very unfortunate nowadays, Michelle, that we don't have a lot of villages. And as an educator myself, working with special needs kids, especially, a lot of our special needs families, they really feel isolated. So when they're going through a divorce situation, they already feel isolated anyway because of the deficiencies that their child may have. And a lot of people don't understand them. So they feel as if every time they talk, they're having to explain. It's exhausting. It's a daunting task, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we provide people with the space to share their thoughts, their feelings, and to even maybe go to therapy, because that's something that my parents did not suggest, they did not think about, what, like I said, now, Southern Baptist, you get on them knees, you pray, you say you a hymn, and you just keep pushing and trying to figure it out along the way. And guess what? While as a child, I was figuring it out along the way. The adults, that's how they were choosing to figure it out along the way too, because it was never any therapy provided. So I'm so thankful, so grateful to my granny. She is now with the Lord. However, she is still around. Her wisdom shines through every day. And she was definitely there with me every step of the way of my parents' divorce. And it was a long process. It's not like they got a divorce right away. He went away right away. He went over there right away, or anything like that. And there were other infidelities that happened that we found out later on. When you're tapped on the shoulder in college by someone that is stating, hey, I may be your sibling. How do you deal with that? But fortunately, my mom never lied to me about who my father was, but she never she was never negative about who he was either. It
Mhm.
was more of a, this is who your dad is, this is what he's done, this is what they say, this is what the streets is saying. I'm not sure, but I want you to know your story before somebody else comes tells you your story. So that's basically how she prepared me. But the safe space is very important. The trusted adult is very important, and therapy is very important, because if I did not come to a point myself, everything just came to a head myself, where I got tired of myself. I got tired of dealing with it. I got tired of holding my feelings in. I got tired of trying to not hurt my parents' feelings, because once again, you're a child, but you're constantly growing up. So around my teenage years, I was sick of it all. And I just got to the point that, you know what, let me just focus on what it is that I need to do for me. And y'all can figure out y'all own stuff. Because I also noticed that one minute he was saying this, and I'm mad at you with my mom, but the next minute y'all cool. So clearly you all have a thing, and they have their relationship was based on a friendship. So they will forever have a friendship. Even to this day, they have a friendship. They talk. It's not like they're, he's with his wife and my mom is doing something else. They have conversations even to this day. And he always looks out for my mom. Like if it's something going on in her house, if it's something that he can fix, or he knows somebody that can fix it, he comes through. He supports her in every way. But as far as being the husband that he should have been back then, he just wasn't equipped. And that's just the honest to God truth. And unfortunately, me and my brother were born in the middle of it, and he was still trying to figure out who he was. And my mom was too. They were very young, 23, 24. I couldn't dream of being married and have a baby at 23 or 24. Not for me. But that was a choice that they made. And obviously other situations was created as a result of those decisions.
Choices, everybody, choices.
Choice.
When you read a book like this, you have to think about the impact of your choice.
Oh,
The
yeah.
impact of your choice, because a lot of us will say, well, people get married, get divorced all the time. We have normalized divorce so much in our culture. It's
Oh,
so
yeah.
common. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, well, it didn't work out. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal because, as you say, and I have the same experience, the layers of complexity that lays on the family. Okay,
Mhm.
these two individuals could not live together. Fine, they separated. But
Mhm.
then you grow up and you have siblings out that you didn't grow up with. You have people coming into your life who you have no connection with, but yet they're saying, "Oh, I'm your sister, your brother, your aunt, and you're like, it makes you feel like, did anybody consider me when all
Yeah.
of this was happening? And I think that's what people don't understand, is that the child who has to carry that weight
Yes.
of outside family members that you didn't grow up with, now you don't know how to feel about them. It's a weight on you. And then watching your parents go back and forth and back and forth, that is a weight on
Mhm.
you. And
Mhm.
so as we make these decisions about divorce, and I'm not here to say stay in a bad marriage, because I don't want anybody texting me and telling me that,
Exactly.
but I am saying, if you can fight for it, fight for it. But I tell my friends this way: choose well going in. And what that means is, if
Mm.
you're too young to make
Mhm.
that decision, because I didn't marry until I was 27, 28 years old. Would I
Mhm.
have married at 21? No.
No.
I was not mature enough. I was
Mhm.
still wilding, having a good time. That was not for me. But yet and still, choose well going in. Think about everything that you're going to need.
Mhm.
Marriage is not the wedding.
Mhm.
Marriage
Ooh.
is
And I
a
think sometimes people get lost in the sauce about the wedding itself. And my motto is, marriage is not work if it works.
yes,
Marriage
absolutely.
is
I
not
agree.
work if it works. So if you're trying to fit this puzzle piece together and it's not a match, then of course it's not going to work. But
Mhm.
if the puzzle pieces fit together and you all are willing to compromise and have the conversations and be courageous in your approach to marriage and be intentional. If it's not something that you feel like you can do well, then don't do it, right?
Mhm.
Because you are definitely it's your energy, it's your time, it's your resources, it's all of the things that you are committing to with this partnership with this other person. So if you know that it's something that you're not going to take quite serious, or you're not quite sure that you want to do it, it's not something that has to be done. But I do say that marriage brings on an opportunity of a lifetime to be with someone that you create memories with, that you can lay in the bed on a Saturday morning and crack up about something that happened 3, 10, 15 years ago. Remember when we got married and such and such and such, or just going back to different places that you enjoyed and you remember certain things that you all did together, or just a meal that you all may have shared. And it was a special meal because you all had a very serious conversation, or your parents starting to get old. That's a whole nother conversation, right? Within your marriage, because those are things that you have to consider. We getting older, they're getting older, everybody getting older. Like my granny used to always say, just keep living, baby, just keep living. So I do think that marriage is a beautiful partnership and union that people should take very seriously, but only enter it if it's something that you're wanting to be dedicated to, if you're wanting to be very intentional about, and that you are willing to put your time, your resources, your love, your blood and sweat into in something that with somebody that wants the same things. So in order to know what that person wants, you have to get to know the person. And to me, at least a year. At least know that person at least a year. For me personally, me and my husband, we were friends first, platonic friends. So he had his share of women. I had my share of guys. I was dating, he was dating. We were talking, hey, what you doing this weekend, whatever. Totally platonic. So I got a chance to know him from a different thread than if I had just went in, oh, I'm so in love the first day, right? I'm getting to actually know him as a person, a man, a friend, a dude. He's dating, I'm dating, we're dating, but we're not in a serious relationship yet, to kind of see how he does things, see what his response is to certain things, see how he was raising his child. Because if a person has a child that you are dating and they're like, oh, well, I got to get him this weekend, but I'm gonna call and tell his mama I ain't gonna get him, so me and you can spend some time together, that's a red flag. But a lot of times women love that. And in my opinion, the woman that my dad, one of the women that my dad selected to deal with, she was all about her and her child. She didn't care if we ate, we did whatever. She was concerned about her. So you really have to vet these people that you are allowing to enter your space when you're dating them, because who you lay down with could become the person that you're co-parenting with. So before you lay down with them, ask yourself, could I co-parent with this person? Could I be in a marriage with this person? Because I don't want my child to be in a household with another man raising them. So ask yourself those questions before you put yourself in the situation. And know the laws, friends. Know the laws that where you live. So if you do have some children, yes, or divorce, you know what comes along with it.
Like I said, choose well, think about what you need. Think about, if you have a history of picking the wrong person, then find somebody you trust to help you to identify what's right. And, go into it with your eyes wide open. You're about to plan a day-to-day life with a person. That person's going to see you through your good years, your twerk in the dark years, and then your menopause years. And, you're going to see them go gray, lose their hair. You're going to be there in good and bad times. So don't go marry someone because what they look like, because that's going to change. Marry someone who knows themselves, even, and yourself, which is what I had to learn. You have to know yourself. So it's just beautiful that you're talking about this. I know, like I said, we've normalized divorce so much, and we're not thinking about how it impacts our kids and how it impacts just the family dynamic as a whole.
It really does.
Take a piece of the puzzle off the table, when you eliminate one piece, then the puzzle isn't whole anymore. And so we have to start thinking about just that one piece causes that. So how do we build the relationship, rebuild our families, recreate or reimagine the family? And that's not easy.
That's not.
And so, but I'm gonna wrap up with two questions. One, I have to ask: your mother and your father, they're still alive.
Yes.
What do they think of your book, and what kind of comments have you received from the family as a whole?
So first of all, I tackled with even writing the book because I was embarrassed. I really didn't want to say what it was, and especially how I felt at the time, because at the time, me and my dad were not talking. It was not a good moment or what have you. And I just didn't want this to be the thing that brought it back, right? But funny enough, God has his own ways of doing things. And as I stated, his accident actually did that for us. But my mom, she was actually more positive and accepting of it than I thought she would be. So I was so surprised about that. So I wrote the book. It took me about a year from beginning to end with the project or whatever, because I had other things going on too. And crazy enough, I wrote another book the same year. Crazy, right? Y'all, crazy. Never thought I would write a book at all, but I've written 10 now. I'm a math girl. I love numbers. So even writing the first book was a stretch for me, but I was so excited once I got to moving and grooving. But the book was very heavy to write because of the details. I had to relive everything that I shared in the book. So that was hard. So I had I had two therapists actually during the time that I wrote the book. And even when I was editing the book too, because as you know, while you're editing the book, you're rereading the book. Every time you're rereading, you're trying to make sure you don't leave anything out. You want to make sure you have all the points so that it's clear to the reader, because obviously you don't want to cause any confusion for the person that's reading what you're saying. These are your words, right? And then also I had to figure out what cover I wanted. I had to figure out how I wanted that cover to express what I was feeling, so that the reader could actually feel what I was feeling as I was writing this book and putting it out and publishing it as a self-published author as well. So my mom was more receptive to it, but my dad, I just got a phone call one day and he was like, "I read your book." And I was like, "Really?" And this was like 6 months after the book was published. And so one of his messy family members, child, actually got the book, told everybody else about the book, and hey, it went on from there. And he was like, "Wow, interesting book." I said, "Well, if you don't agree with anything, you can always write you a book and then I'll just write a rebuttal." And so his book hasn't came out yet, so I don't think he has any questions about this one. And he does, however, feel as if I was very courageous for writing the book, and a lot of people have shared that, because I have a friend that really wants to share her story about her childhood, but her father has passed away, but she's waiting, it appears, for her mom to pass on before she actually writes this book, because she feels as if it would be disrespectful. But I felt as if, yeah, I'm disappointed, but me not sharing the words of this book will be even more of a disappointment for more people than just myself, because so many people need the information that's within these pages. It's a very short read. I also have it in the audio format as well as ebook for those that want to either hear it, read it, or use their Kindle or whatever device they want to use to read it. So no one has an excuse for not reading it. You can just click it on the way to work or coming from work, or in the airport or whatever, and get the information that you need. And it's not only for people that are divorced, not only for people that are married, but also for people that are considering marriage. You're considering being with someone, and you may already have a child, but I have information in here about how you need to also vet your partner when you have children, because that's something that's very important too. You are a package deal. You're not a singular person or entity anymore. And you're not the only person that has to be considered. It's another human that has to be considered in the equation as well. So it's definitely a book for a vast audience to read and to get the perspective about divorce being an unspoken childhood trauma.
Well, I thank you so much for writing it. I know that it was a tough decision to do it, but you did it for those of us out here who have yet to put our feelings on paper about the experiences that we have, because divorce is not, going back and forth from home to home is not an easy situation for a child.
Yes.
And it doesn't, we see it in the movies and it's like, oh, daddy's at the door and the little girl's running up to daddy, but we're not thinking
Mhm.
about what that child thinks of every time she has to leave one home, or he has to leave one home and go to another and be in a totally different environment. My mother
That's
used to always tell me when I would come home from my dad's house, I've got to reprogram you now. That was our little joke, because life was just different over there. And so when
yeah.
I would get home, I'm like, my mother my mother lives in the projects. My daddy lives in a house,
Mm-hmm.
he's got nice cars and she's barely got a car. And she's raising 4 kids,
Same
working
here. We
Head Start,
projects, but
picking
I
up
mean, yeah.
and my dad has things. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was like, yeah, I did go through those, like, okay, I'm over here now, so now we got a nice car to ride around in and my friends can come over, and then I'm at home and I'm like, my friends could come over but they couldn't stay the night because there was no space. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? That dynamic on a child is
Oh,
very, very, very tough.
it
And
is.
so when we, like I said, we make these decisions about divorce, we need to go into them being, eyes wide open to
Yes.
what this is going to cause. It's
Mm-hmm.
not stay in a bad marriage, but it is going into a marriage, knowing who you are, knowing who the person is, not rushing too fast, like you said, to have kids and do all these things, get to know each other. Because if you divorce, there's going to be a lot of people impacted. And so I'm grateful that your mother and father were not like turned off by this or angry with you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful that they embraced it because they probably learned something about you that they
Yes.
did not know. And that's a beautiful thing. So
Mm.
congratulations on your
I
work.
think the only person that was probably angry about it was my dad's wife, because, of course, I can't tell my story without sharing some of the um, what would I say? I can't share my story without sharing the story of my monster, because
Mhm.
in my childhood she was my monster,
Mhm.
and I felt as if she contributed a lot, not only not taking my dad off the hook, but she contributed as well because my parents were still married. So I feel as if she wasn't a woman about it because she never really gave them a fair chance, and neither did my dad. But yet my mom was willing to keep her family together or what have you, but not with the foolishness that was going on. So she felt as if she had to, choose her and choose what was best for her kids. And that's what she did. And fortunately, she kept her head together in all of this. But a lot of things that she was frustrated about as a result of their divorce and how things went down, and the disrespect of it all. And crazy enough, they live like a mile away from us. So
Mhm.
that just added, even more.
Which
If you were
which
asking.
means that this book is even more, it's not just about divorce, it's about those of us, or those of you out there who are being with married people, or you have to think about the long-term impact.
Yes.
You were 8, you're writing a book about 8-year-old Tara. You're not 8 anymore. You're probably what, 30 years older than that,
I'm
plus
45 actually.
45, and you
Mhm.
still remember the
Oh yeah.
impact that that person had. And that's why I always tell people, you know, be careful what you do. Be
Yeah.
careful how you act and who you impact, because you don't know how far and how long and how wide your
Mhm.
indiscretion is going to reach, and how many
Right.
people, how many generations of people it's going to
Oh
reach.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Because
that's a
now, I
beautiful.
mean, of course, she has a child, she has a grandchild. He may pick up the book or want to listen to the audiobook or whatever. And he's like, dang, my grandma was a trip.
Mhm.
She did some things that I'm not so proud of. But as I stated, she wasn't the purpose why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because people need to know what divorce creates.
Yes.
People need to know the heaviness behind it, the powerlessness that children feel, the abandonment when a child feels as if you picked someone else, or someone else and their children, because oftentimes men are with the women that they have children with at that time. Okay. And when he's not with her anymore, then he goes to the next best thing, right? So he's in that household. So the kids that are left behind are like, well, dog, they're getting you every day. Monday through Sunday. I'm just getting you every other weekend or whenever, you're available or it's convenient for you. So it's really something that we need to think about and be more thorough in our thoughts and intentional when we are selecting partners and selecting people that we are going to marry, or if you already have a child and you're considering marrying somebody and that's not who you had your child with, you need to really understand and know, hey, how are you going to handle this situation? And not just them telling you. Actions speak louder than words.
Excellent. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Everybody go out and buy this book. It is on Amazon. It's on directorauthor.com. It is on her website. That's Divorce, the Untold Childhood Trauma. It is important that we all take our time and learn about these things, because it could be you. It could be me. These things happen. This is a part of life. All of us could be going through these same things. I wanted to show the book one more time. So thank you so much for being with us. It is important to me that we are always celebrating our authors, and we are encouraging people to go out and buy these books. And I say this all the time: when you're dealing with independent authors, buy the book, read the book, review the book, and repeat. Okay. Give it to somebody else and let them buy the book. I tell them to buy the book, read the book, and review. We need those reviews. That is so important. So please go out and do that. Thank you so much. I want to just give you some final words. Tell me what's going on next with you. Tell everyone how they can. I've already told them Amazon and direct to author, but if there are other ways they can purchase the book as well. So what's next up for you as an author?
Absolutely. So what's next up for me is I have the Talk Tank podcast, where we have intelligent conversations about business, education, and relationships. So if you all are interested in being on the podcast, you all can simply go to thebossyeducator.com. Also, you will find my print and cursive handwriting workbook. Are you familiar with Tabitha Brown, Michelle?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, she actually reviewed my book on her show, Very Good Mondays. And so the print and cursive handwriting workbook is available there, along with Divorce, Unspoken Childhood Trauma, and my other books, curriculums, earrings. These I have on actions reveal while words hold no weight. Okay. So I have a lot of statement earrings, also statement apparel as well. Instagram, The Bossy Educator. And I have a scholarship that I want seniors to go out and apply for. We actually do this on an annual basis. And I work with special needs adults with programming as well. So if you do know of someone that is interested in programs for special needs adults or children, I also consult as well. So everything, any questions, thebossyeducator.com. If you want to schedule a free consultation about your child specifically having any type of special ed needs or general education needs as well, I do provide 15-minute free consultations to everyone that goes and sign up. So that's about it. You can sign up for my newsletter. I send out information that is relevant, not just, sending out a newsletter, just, trying to make sure you all get some content, but some actual good information that you all can use, which is something, a lot of information about scholarships. Tyler Perry had a summer program this summer, so we sent that out. Morehouse has programs going on as well in the Atlanta area. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get all that good information.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being with us. This is Dynamic. For those of you out there, this will be on YouTube at BW_workspace. It will also be on author Michelle D. Jackson's Facebook page. And you can always follow us on the Black Writers Workspace. We have over 17,000 authors and readers who follow us on Facebook. It's a private group, and all we talk about is writing and books and everything in between. We also have a masterclass that we host every month or every 2 months. And we have a writers workshops that we host annually. And we have the Black Ink Book Festival that is also an annual event that takes place here in New Orleans. We also are accepting applications for our annual Chapter 1 writing competition. This is our 5th year. And we are working with Village Care Publishing, who will get in the database and take a look at 10 pages of your book to see if you will qualify for one of their traditional publishing deals. And we also give cash prizes and trophies. So we are so excited. You can go to blackwritersworkspace.com and learn about everything that we're doing. And so we've been around since 2020. And it's just been a dynamic opportunity for us to connect. So if you are an author and you want to connect with other authors, follow us, blackwritersworkspace.com. If you have an independent book that you want to promote on our marketplace, go to direct2author.com and upload your book for free. And we will promote that book once, or you can also purchase any and all of our book marketing services. So thank you so much. Stay with me. We're going to say farewell to everyone out there. And we hope that you guys will purchase this book. Take care.
Awesome.